Good evening, Stevens Point, and welcome back to the Sports Hub. I'm your host, Will Haroldson, and alongside me are my partners, Ashton Parker and Brody Kupsky. We have a full show for you today, including Pointers Athletics, the Packers' massive upset of the Dallas Cowboys, and other regional sports action. All of this and more when we return. Now for your UWSP athletic updates. Well, for the second consecutive season, the Pointers football team has gone winless in conference play after Saturday's 79-10 beatdown in Whitewater. Yes, you heard me right, 79-10. To say the game against Whitewater was an ugly performance is putting it lightly. The Warhawks actually had a 65-3 lead at halftime. Whitewater's offense was so good in this game, their quarterback, Evan Lewandowski, only threw for 5 completions and 106 yards and 1 touchdown. The rushing game is where the Warhawks broke this one open, having 523 total rushing yards and 10 touchdowns through the ground. The Warhawks also had 3 running backs go for over 100 yards in the game. So guys, this Pointer season comes to an end. Where does Coach Vinay and company go from here? Because that was kind of rock bottom against Whitewater.
I guess just look past Whitewater. Don't even worry about it. It's done. It's over with. Focus on the off season. Just work on the stuff. Like we said last episode, just work on the stuff that needs to be worked on and just continuously fix things if it needs to be fixed. I mean, something clearly isn't working if we're losing every single conference game by a good margin and not really putting up points.
Yeah, over the past 2 seasons, 0-14 in the WIAC, 0-7 last year, 0-7 this year. Albeit they won 2 games last year, only 1 this year. Where does a team go to fix their rushing defense that gave up 523 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns?
I don't know if I don't think I have enough experience personally to put like a plan of what they should do in terms of fixing the rushing defense. I think this is just a case that they need to work on with all of their aspects of the game. Is that just to make just broad improvements? Just try and just broadly improve the game as much as you can in this offseason, and then when you get to once you feel like you're in a good spot, then you can possibly start working on the more specific stuff like rushing defense, passing defense. However, right now, allowing for 10 touchdowns and over 500 rushing yards, I think is just sort of a thing that you just need to focus on, just working on the defense, personally.
Yeah, and so when you think about the WIAC football as it stands, Whitewater won the WIAC. Shocking, in football. They won it again. But they have 2 teams in the playoffs here now. Whitewater's in there as well as UW La Crosse. So there's still some good representation of these Wisconsin schools being able to play high caliber football. Is that something that Coach Vinay is going to need to do and say, hey, come to our program. We still have a really strong conference here in Stevens Point? Or what is the next steps for Coach Vinay to really reload this team?
I guess just finding guys who want to play and just play well at the collegiate level. I mean, obviously you look at Point's record, it's not appetizing. You're like, God, these guys they don't have a great record, but it might entice them that, hey, I can come here and play well and be able to start and play games. So that might entice guys to come and sign up for Point football, which would be nice, but you just try to get the numbers, try to get guys who want to come out and play well.
And the transfer portal is always a unique thing. Obviously now in college football, it's a unique situation. Usually when you were to transfer in something, you'd have to sit out a year, maybe a semester or 2, and then you're going to be able to play. But is the transfer portal something that Coach Vinay should attack here too? Because they can get immediate eligibility to play for a team.
I don't think it's a case that he should attack the transfer portal. I think it's a case that he needs to attack the transfer portal. At this point, there's you need to find any way you can to improve. Going consistently winless in the WIAC for multiple years. I think the last WIAC win was in 2019 against River Falls, I think. Mm-hmm. And I think you need to just start doing whatever you can. And I think the transfer portal is a great place to start with that, because you can find guys that possibly want to transfer, and then you can look at the talents that they have and then bring them along. And at this point, you could probably take anybody, because going 1-9, 0-7, anything would probably be an improvement. So I think it's more of a case that he needs to attack the transfer portal.
Yeah, without question on that. Well, it was a good weekend to be a fan of Pointers basketball, as both the men's and the women's basketball team had a successful 2-0 weekend. The men's team had solid wins against Webster and Illinois Wesleyan University to improve to 2-1, and the women played 2 outstanding games, beating the 14th ranked team in the country in Webster University, and following that up with a win against Carroll College. So boys, like I said, it was a great weekend for Stevens Point basketball, regardless if you're a fan of men's or women's or both. What was the thing that stuck out to you most in both of those teams this weekend?
I would say just a lot of all-around team play that is between both teams, starting with the men's here. Really great win against Webster, 80-47, pretty big win, and a close one against Illinois Wesleyan University, who was, I believe, ranked 19th at the time, which is a huge win for the Pointers considering how it's been.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying we should get ahead of ourselves with it, because they won 3 games in a row last year and proceeded to lose the rest of their games, but it's looking a little up for Point, which is nice. Going to the women's, though, starting 3-0 is a pretty solid start. I mean, they beat number 14 Millikan University, which is a huge win, and they've looked pretty solid through their first 3 games.
Yeah, without question. And, getting back to that point of last year with the men's team, they had only 3 wins in the regular season. They now have 2, so they have a long time still to try to get past that 3-point. But to Brody's point, this men's team looks like a significantly stronger team than they were last year. Not saying that last year they weren't any good. Now, statistically, that would say, based on win total last year, that they weren't. But this year, they just seemed like a different team. And even the women's team, they came out 3-0, 3 straight games where they look fantastic every game. It's just a great way to start the year.
I think the tale of the men's and women's basketball teams here in Stevens Point is 2 completely opposite tales. So let's take a look at the women's team first off. Most of the players from the women's team is returning from last year, and last year they were quite solid. They were okay. They won like 500, pretty all right record. They make the NCAA tournament, sadly, but they showed signs of promise, and now off to a really great start with most of the same team. And I think that's what you hopefully want to expect from a team. As they get older, they become more experienced, and that's will lead to hopefully better things. And so that's why I think the women's team has been doing really good recently. Of course, like I said, phenomenal win against number 14th ranked team. However, I think with the men's team, things get a lot more interesting. In the offseason this year, we obviously know that, you said earlier, the men's team last year did not do very well. 3 wins, 0 regular season conference wins. I have to specify regular season because they won in the tournament against Stout, but they only had 3 wins in a regular season last year. Now, in the offseason, it was pretty massive. They had 6 transfers and 7 freshmen join the team in the offseason. And I think right now, those transfers are making an immediate impact. They pretty much injected life into this men's basketball team with the talent that they have. I know there's a couple people. There's one person I know. It's like just off the top of my head. It's number 12 for Miles Coleman. That's it. He was a transfer, and he's doing very well currently, has a couple double-digit point games. But I think the big thing is that the transfer portal has helped a ton, and I think they still had some existing pieces already into it, and those pieces are also balling out right now. But I think it's just a case of those transfers are just helping the team. They're giving them that support that they needed, and I think this team has a really solid shot of doing some stuff this year.
Yeah, and we when you look at the women's team too, they had just lost their the winningest head coach in WIAC history this year, right? In Shirley Egner. And now they start off this season with a brand new head coach, and they start off 3-0. So that's a testament to any team. Anytime you get a new coach in any game, it's impressive to start off the season 3-0 in any game, really.
Yeah, without question, it's been a huge improvement from years past. You start out 3-0, it's really great. But looking at some stats here for some of the players, I mean, they're averaging about 14 a game, and all around they've been pretty solid. A lot of them are stepping up and playing well, and that's kind of led to their success.
Yeah, and they have a lot of games coming forward. Obviously, it's around Thanksgiving. A lot of teams have these kind of holiday tournaments that they go and play and see a lot more non-conference foes. So that'll bode well for the teams that, that'll go down into the NCAA tournament-wise. Now, Stevens Point in a little bit of a unique situation. They have actually a postseason ban from a couple years ago, but this is the last year. And like you said, Ashton, this is a young squad that, if they can put things together this year, they're going to have a strong chance at next year making a really solid run to an NCAA tournament bid potentially.
Yeah, the Pointers team, men's team, is been known recently. They've had a lot of success in the postseason tournament. They've won, I think, like 3 or 4 national championships. So they have a lot of success. So that helps with possibly more transfers in the future. But I think this year is really just going to be a sort of adjusting year personally, because going off of only a 3-win season last year in basketball, and a lot of things would be an improvement. And I think I don't know how. Of course, we don't know what's happening in the future, and we don't know exactly how good this team is going to be. Maybe they just overachieved, but I don't think that's the case. I think this team is quite solid, and I think that while they probably aren't going to win the WIAC this year, I'm gonna keep my optimism in check a little bit. I don't think they're going to win the WIAC. However, like I said with the postseason ban, I think they can use this year to really just adjust and get things ready for next year when they can make the postseason again.
Without question. Now let's move on to some Pointers hockey. The Pointers men's hockey team's unique season continues after they split another weekend series. After cruising past St. Mary's of Minnesota 8-1, the Pointers kind of let one get away from them as they had a 4-2 lead over St. Olaf, but ended up in a 5-5 tie. So guys, what did you make of this hockey team's weekend? Because I know we were all kind of messaging each other out of things. Oh my God, you see Point put up 8 goals, and then they really just let one slip away from them. This team, if I could describe it in one word, is inconsistency. And I don't really know what they have to do to change that.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you with that. They seem like they'll go on great games and just play well, and then tie the next game and almost lose to an opponent that they should beat by a lot. But I would say one takeaway from this weekend: they scored in the power play. That is the greatest thing to happen this weekend for Point hockey, which is good for them, but it should have happened sooner.
Yeah, I believe they went 2 of 2 in the power play against St. Mary's of Minnesota. But yeah, like we said, you were at the games in the pet band. I did a lot of games calling them. They were downright bad at the power play so far. So it's the old analogy I like to say, just seeing the ball go through the net once, you'll get your confidence going in. They've seen the ball go through the net, or they've seen the puck go into the goal. So that'll do massive things for their confidence. But this Friday is kind of going to be the big question mark of how will this team be based on their performance against UW Stout, who right now, record-wise, is the best team in the WIAC. So what are you looking forward to seeing on Friday?
Yeah, that's exactly it. If I had to go back and just say one word about this Point team right now, it would be it'd be weird. It would be the word weird. I can't get a grasp on this team right now. Like you said, there seems like at some points they would be going on great runs. They would be scoring left and right. Everything is wonderful, and then they tie 5-5 after being up 4-2, being up 5-2 actually. So I just cannot get a grasp on this team, and I think this game against Stout is really going to be the game where we get to see how this team is going to be this season. I think this is probably the most important game of the season because obviously it's the first conference game. Those are always important. However, it's also the game where you're going against a much, much better opponent, I would think, right now. From what I can give, what little I can get right now, just the crumbs I can get, I can't tell what this team is, and I can tell that Stout is probably better. But if they can possibly come away with a win this weekend, maybe that could show signs of this team is maybe better than what we think. And I think your point of them going 2 for 2 in the power play against St. Mary's, Minnesota, I think that will help the team in the long run as well because they finally scored on the power play after going 0 for 12, I think it was.
It was 0 for 14.
0 for 14? Well, there you go.
They were 2 for 16 up until that point. But now we'll look kind of towards their record or their schedule that they've played so far. Now, last week, obviously, they had like the Minnesota trip where they took on St. Olaf and St. Mary's. But so far, Stevens Point has played really one ranked team, that being St. Norbert, and they lost and tied that. And you're more than likely going to be going into the game on Friday playing a team that's going to be ranked or should be ranked in UW Stout. So what do you tell your team to kind of prepare them for what is a very important matchup? I know it's really early in the season, but the home conference opener against UW Stout, who could be in it to the end to win the WIAC regular season, what do you got to do to prepare for that?
You just got to tell them, hey, they're high flying. They can score goals. They can play well. I mean, Stout is 5-1 right now and have beaten solid teams in Augsburg.
Augsburg ranked,
yeah,
ranked teams in the country, one of the best teams in the country.
Exactly, and they're looking at Stout's power play. They're 8 for 23. I mean, that's already better than Point, and their opponents are 1 for 23 in power play. I mean, I would say, yeah, it's pretty elite. So you just got to tell your guys, hey, expect a really good team to come in KB Willett Arena and play well. You just got to play out of your minds and just play like Pointers hockey has always been.
I've had a question. It's going to be a big-time game, and we're going to look forward to it. We're going to have it actually here on SBTV. We'll have that broadcast for you. That is going to be at 7 o'clock p.m. on Friday. We don't want to get up at 7 a.m. to do a game.
I don't want to be here at 7 a.m.
Nobody wants
I
to get
already
up at
struggling
7
be here at 7 p.m.
So maybe we'll see Ashton.
Maybe.
If he's got to take a nap every once in a while. Well, that's going to wrap up for our UWSP athletics segment. Now on to regional sports action after this.
The Media Studies is a program for people who love to tell stories, whether that be in written form, visual, or audio.
Media Studies is exciting because it's always fresh, it's always new.
Media is at the center of everything we do. More and more people are asked to engage with media and use media. Our program really provides students with skills and techniques to be better prepared for that in the future.
We offer courses in media production, both video and audio, nonfiction and fiction, music production, journalism, film studies.
Media Studies is a great way to get hands-on experience in the field that you're looking to do. They teach you the basic concept behind everything, and then they tell you to go do it.
We really pride ourselves on thinking of a wide set of opportunities that we can give our students.
The student organizations are a great asset. We have SPTV, the student television organization, 90 FM, the radio, and the Pointer, our student-run newspaper.
It's a great way for students to get involved, learn skills that they need for class, and meet new people.
Some great facilities where our students can hone their skills.
There's a giant studio in the center of the comm building. I've had quite a few classes in there.
A lot of our classes are very hands-on, they're very interpersonal.
You're getting the skills that will allow you to create your future, and I think that's what makes it a truly amazing experience for students.
There's an incredible range of options for graduates. We've had students go out and become independent contractors, work for radio stations, newspapers, with TV stations.
Everyone is different and they have their own unique style. In all the classes and all the student organizations you get involved in, you have a lot of flexibility to really create your own work and do it in a way that means something to you.
We're excited to see what students are making and what they want to make, and how we can help students get from where they are to where they want to be.
I'm in a video production class that's teaching me how to film documentaries. I'm also in a screenwriting class and I get to learn how to write movies. So I'm doing all these different cool things and I love it every day.
The Green Bay Packers picked up what may be a season-saving win on Sunday night after they defeated the Dallas Cowboys 31-28 in overtime. Aaron Rodgers played brilliantly in this offensive masterclass by the Packers, going 14 for 20 and throwing for 220 yards and 3 touchdowns, all of them going to rookie wide receiver Christian Watson. The run game worked for the Packers as well, as Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon carried the ball for a collective 203 yards and a touchdown. Packers defense didn't play outstanding, but when they needed to make a play, they did it. So guys, 5-game losing streak, and nothing seemed like it was going to come from the season. This seemed like a lost season. Now they beat, which was one of the best teams in the NFC, and the Dallas Cowboys, a team that Aaron Rodgers owns, to be quite frankly. What do you make of this victory? Because, a lot of people are saying this could have been a season-saving victory.
I'm going to start out by saying this. When the Cowboys lose, America wins. So
they're not America's team.
They're not America's team. I can name like 3 more teams that are America's team more than Dallas Cowboys.
Exactly. But going off this game, they looked really well in the run game. Despite, only scoring 1 touchdown through the run game, they actually looked a heck of a lot better in the run game when I was watching them. And it's like, why didn't they do this earlier? It looks way better. And guys are stepping up. Christian Watson, dropped the first pass of the season to him would have been a touchdown in Minnesota. He dropped it. Now, 4 receptions, 107 yards for 3 touchdowns. The guy's insane. And it really kind of shows that he can be a star. Great for Christian Watson. But also, another great game out of Rudy Ford. I mean, kind of stepping up on the defense. 2 interceptions from arguably, people say he's a good quarterback in Dak Prescott. He threw 2 interceptions to Rudy Ford, of all people. So, really, this I would say was a well-run game out of the Packers. Obviously, it could have went a little better, not giving up 14 points in the third quarter and kind of blowing your chance at a win right away. But, the Packers win, we all win.
Yeah, especially as Packer fans. But thinking it from a standpoint, you're right. Rudy Ford really kind of saved the game a little early because if you remember, Dallas scores a touchdown. They're up 7-0, and then Aaron Rodgers fumbles the football, so Dallas has it at the Green Bay 12, and then Rudy Ford has that first interception, and he has that second interception, which set up the Packers a chance, and they actually ended up going up 14-7 before it was 14-14 at halftime. But the resiliency of a team that's 3-6 to come back, have 17 unanswered points to win a game in overtime, I mean, that's good for a team that's 7-1, let alone a team that's 3-6 at the time. I mean, it was impressive to see that team just click because Rodgers was clicking with Christian Watson.
Yeah, he needed it. And you know what? I'm always going to say this. I'm going to say this. Whenever the running backs whenever we use our running backs, we win games. Oh, it's a coincidence of we probably have 2 top 10 running backs in A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. Why are we not using them? They combined for over 200 rushing yards, and guess what happened? We scored 31 points. We did so well when we did it. Of course, Aaron Rodgers threw for 3 touchdowns as well. However, it's those runs by Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon that set you up for those touchdown passes. And they can do that, and they can do it very well. And they do it very well often, too. So I think when Matt LaFleur and Aaron, when they call the plays, the running plays, more often, I feel like that's the real key to success for the Green Bay Packers, is they need, that your wide receivers are young, and they're not as experienced as they have been in years past. So you have to rely on your running backs more, and they just made baffling decisions to constantly keep throwing the ball, even though you have 2 experienced running backs in the back, when you're throwing it to inexperienced wide receivers. So I think I hope that is a sign from things to come. I hope they start using Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon more. And I think Christian Watson was him that game. He balled out that game. And I hope that's a sign of his confidence getting back, because after week 1, it did not look good for him. So I hope I hope that means that it's going to be, good for him in the future.
Great win for the Packers. They got Tennessee this Thursday. That's going to be on Amazon Prime, but it's a little hard to watch. But it should be a good game against Tennessee.
You can watch it on Twitch. They have a live stream on Twitch.
You can watch it on Twitch.
You can watch it on Twitch.
Regardless, regardless, Packers play Titans this Thursday. Should be a good game. Well, now for our favorite segment, our Rank 'em segment. If you're new here, basically what happens is we go around our cast of characters here and share our top 3 moments from last week in sports. I'll go first, then Ashton, and then Brody. So I'll start off at number 3. I'm going to go with one that's a little closer here to Stevens Point. Stevens Point volleyball team, yes, they fell short, but they had another tremendous season this year. I know they had a rough end of the year, but they had another great year. At number 2, I'm going to go with the Wisconsin Badgers basketball team, starting off 2-0. Good win against Stanford in the Bruce City Battle, and they look like a team. They're missing Johnny Davis, but they look like a pretty solid team. And then at number 1, I'm going to go with the Packers win over the Cowboys. That was just a season-saving win, and it really went towards really helping out the Packers' confidence. So now I will hand it off to you, Ashton.
So number 3, I'm going to go for. I am going to go for UWSP volleyball. They had a really great season, and I legitimately think if they would have beaten that first set against Northwestern Minnesota, if that set could have gone 5 sets. If they won set 1, which they lost 27-25, and they were up 23-20, by the way. I think that game could have gone 5 sets. But great season, and a lot to look forward to in the future for them. Go number 2. I'll go for both UWSP basketball teams as well. They both look very good right now, and that's honestly that's all I could ask for from them after not doing great in the fall sports other than volleyball and hockey being a little disappointing right now. I'm glad that both basketball teams are doing well, and obviously number 1 I'm gonna have to go with the Packers as well. They needed that win, and Christian Watson was lights out, like that light in the background right there. I appreciate you too. They really a great representation. All right, Brody.
All right, so I'm gonna go with my top 3 here. So number 3, I'm gonna go with Washington football beating Oregon 37-34. So Washington's ranked 25th, and Oregon is ranked 6th. It's a huge upset win, and it kind of ruins the chances for Oregon to make the playoffs.
Oregon's going to go down. Washington's going to go up.
Yeah, so that's huge for them, and it's looking good for Washington. Good on them for a great win. Number 2, I'm going to go with the Packers beating the Cowboys. As I said before, when the Cowboys lose, America wins. It's a great feeling, and it's great that the Packers can get a win and kind of get their season back on track. And my number 1, I hate to say it, but the Bills versus Minnesota Vikings game. It was.
Oh, you know what? That's completely fair. It's a great game.
It was a very insane game. I mean, from the start to the finish. I mean, when I was watching it, I was just cheering so much for the Bills. I'm like, yes, they won, and then they proceeded to fumble on the 1-yard line and give up a touchdown and kind of lose the game for them in that way. And it's heartbreaking, but, good job, Vikings. You somehow beat the Bills and kind of set yourselves up for a chance in the playoffs.
Still going to be an NFC divisional round exit.
Ashton's calling it.
Always is.
Division round exit. All right. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of the Sports Hub here. If you liked what you saw, make sure you check out the other content we have here, and don't forget to watch the broadcast of Pointers men's hockey here this Friday against UW Stout. I want to thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time.